Hey, Jason.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with our landing page.
Yep. Just gonna grab that. Paste it. Please, Gretchen. It doesn't find that obvious. Oh, you already got it. So no Kevin today, but I was just talking to Rob, so he's around.
Cool. We have both jumped in very much on time, so
Yeah,
there's definitely we got a few minutes.
Hey, Gretchen. Are you saying something, Gretchen? You're muted.
I was just smiling that I heard your baby.
Yeah.
So Rob is on. Hi, Rob. I think this is everybody we're expecting. Oh, nope, we're expecting somebody else. We'll wait then.
So many things are going on there. Yeah. So I think that is why, like, so for example, jump right there.
Sorry, I had the other person I mentioned in the Edgy Slack who might be able to help out with natural language processing stuff and everything. Said she was going to try and make it today. So I was just trying to get her a note about the broken Zoom login in case she's stuck on that.
Right. Well, I think contributors are worth waiting for. So,
Rob, you said doing like like quantitative text analysis?
Yeah. So she does a lot of machine learning stuff and data analysis and data mining professionally. So she was super interested in the shape of the problem. And when I was describing to her our concerns about machine learning and our experience with DataKind, her response was basically, oh yeah, I think you're on the right track there. Like, the things you're asking about are the right things. There are better approaches, and I'd be happy to jump in and help out. So,
oh, that's awesome.
It was like all the right answers to those. So that was good.
I've been meaning to ask, did the DataKind thing formally end or just sort of vanish? Cool.
I mean, I think that last call that we had, which was a while ago now, was the formal ending, but I'm not really sure.
I'm super excited if your friend, hopefully she does come. I'm hoping to audit a course in quantitative text analysis at LSE, where we're in Linden because my partner is a PhD student at LSE. And thus far, I've been able to audit two classes last term and one class this term on various types of statistical analysis. And I'm hoping to add that to the course as well, because when I saw that was being offered, I was like, oh my God, like, we need this. And she already knows how to do that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of appeal to having this not be somebody's first clay pot.
I also think they were open to experimentation and learning.
I mean, absolutely, but it definitely is a large field of study with a lot of room to get lost.
That's
Yeah,
probably true.
Very definitely.
And does anybody have a hard stop at the end of this?
can't go on a whole lot longer, but it doesn't have to be 12:30.
Okay. Then I say we should just continue to wait for a little bit.
In the meantime, does anybody know anything about this Alessandro Caparini person who has showed up and started making small commits to DB? Okay, just curious.
I'm backtracking a little bit. Is this the person that was also talking about doing like OAuth?
No.
Or that was a different person?
Interactions with them have only been on GitHub. They like out of the blue submitted a PR for a super minor issue, but I'm glad they did it, which was like remove the new relic gem because we're not using it anymore. So why is it there? And then they just submitted one for adding a button to set people as admin or revoke their admin privileges in the admin panel, which would be super useful for you, Gretchen, because I've been meaning to do that forever. So I haven't really looked at it yet. I just saw that just showed up this morning. So I don't know anything about him. just like random GitHub PRs. So. I will have to invite them to please join the Slack.
How are things looking for your friend?
I don't see anything from her, so it's 10 minutes in. Maybe we should just get started.
Yep, let's go ahead and fire up. So, okay, let's start with analyst updates.
Okay, so the sysadmin interviews, it looks like hopefully we'll be hiring a really great sysadmin who has a lot of development experience and could hopefully really lighten the load there as well. His name is Peter Lalo. Lalo. So that's exciting. And thank you so much, Rob, for the domain. Organizing the domains differently or like setting them out. I think it's going to work much, much better. With the second level domains, there were, I think, 64 second level domain outputs. And for most of them, I think that's the appropriate level. And we can also like consolidate from there. Like Noah had at least 20 of those over like different tiny little ones. So we can do a lot of consolidation from there. The only agency that really doesn't work for is EPA because they organize rather than like DOE has like science.energy.gov, x.energy.gov. EPA organizes all of theirs as epa.gov/research. And so even though it might become like hundreds, I actually can easily look in this website or the sheet of web pages that you link to find out how many like -1 level domains there are with EPA. But somehow I want to see if we can kind of organize by -1 level domains and then consolidate, like kind of, group them from there, just so that otherwise it'd be, a single analyst getting all of EPA.gov, which is just a beast.
So you're saying you want to just do that for EPA, or you want to try universally for everything to group by domain and like first level of the path?
I think only EPA requires it. The others seem like manageable enough that that it,
Okay.
at least based on this past week's data, which albeit very odd data because of the government shutdown. So, but based on the one data point we have, it seems like the other agencies all the other domains seem fine at that 2L level, and the EPA would require the domain and the first after the first slash.
Okay. I think probably the way we should tackle that then is, unlike what we did for the domains where it's sort of automatic and built into the software, I think I should just go in and write a little script that just does a one-time tagging of all the pages for EPA that way. If we add new pages on the versionista side, they won't pick up those tags, but new versions of those pages will have the tags applied just fine. And if we pick up new stuff that way from Internet Archive, we'll have the same problem. But I don't think we're actively adding new URLs right now, so not super worried about it. Yeah, because that one is like less abstract in what it's doing, so it's hard to think of an easy way off the top of my head to write that like in the software code the way we did with the domain tags.
Okay, is that a heavy lift, or is that
Nope.
no? Okay,
I can do that after this meeting.
that
Should take me 30 minutes or less, I think.
awesome. Okay, thank you. That would be great. And then I'll maybe through GitHub, if it's also easy to like consolidate, like domains with these domains onto a single output sheet, if that's easy.
Wait, sorry, say that again?
Like for all those different NOAA ones that aren't actually NOAA.gov, but are like sites that relate to NOAA, in their 2L domain, they're still kind of their own thing. If we could consolidate them, so all of the for NOAA specifically, if we even consolidate to the agency level, like the agency tag level, that would make the most sense for that particular one, like that kind of size. But if it's too, it's also not a big deal to have like many, other pages, because I think it would be kind of agency by agency, like how much clumping would make sense.
Yes, it sounds like that is true. I have been trying really hard to write all of our code in a fairly abstract way, which would make that hard because those are really specific requirements to us. On the other hand, like Versionista Scraper, which is the tool that actually generates the spreadsheets, which also doesn't really make sense, never made sense, but that was an issue of convenience. It has become a thing that is mostly so specific to us, even though Web Integrity Project is using it or was using it. They're still using it. So I can probably just write that directly in the code, which will be less nice and clean, but that code is the stuff that reads from RDB and sends out tasking sheets is fairly specific to us anyway. So nobody else is going to use that because I'm pretty sure nobody else is running an instance of DB. So yeah. we can do that. Can you write up for me like exactly how you want to see sheets grouped, and then I'll try and do that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Dev
me next.
updates. Dan, yeah.
Cool. So been working on the sysadmin hiring stuff, reference checks, interviews. That took a chunk of my time, but did get Kibana and Elastic up with some help from Jason and some thought from Rob. We have that now like ready to receive metrics data. So that will be our window into the health of the systems, to whether we're over provisioned, which is useful to thinking about costs. Are we using the machines we have, and when? And then a window also into stuff that's almost our application domain, right? We could start looking at, are there more outages, to this week than there are going to be when the government comes fully back to its funding levels and that kind of stuff. You could imagine this overall dashboard of our data processing as kind of a live pulse on web monitoring itself, which I think is kind of fun. So adding metrics to that is on my radar. I'm going to start with the queues, which is, Rob pointed out, an aspect of our workflow that we don't have a lot of observability, I think is the word that the professionals use for this, right? Into right now. And let's see. Yeah, that's it for me. And I'm sorry that I'll have to miss the in-person meeting, so I'll be vicariously enjoying that, I guess, on some.
So I've been just sort of in the same space as Dan, so nothing new there. Something that has been interesting work for me has been doing the homework and readings for the in-person meeting. It's given me a lot of food for thought on the things I feel like have been challenges for me to like be a productive contributor to the project, because I've definitely been struggling to like actually make producible deliverables for Edgy. So that's been really good food for thought for how I might adjust the work I'm doing for Edgy to be more productive and to actually make the platform better. And that's all me. Rob?
Mine's basically the same as last week, with the exception of I did the auto tagging and organizing of sheets. So yeah, still trying to find time to dig into the mapping of sites so we can find out what pages are gone versus just have a notice. And finishing out the status field on pages stuff. So we get the status field on versions, but we need to have the tooling to sort of do a high level, more fuzzy version of that for the current status of the page. And finishing the Wayback Import stuff, which is mostly refactoring and cleanup. A little bit comes in with your refactoring is massaging how retries work, because that's the biggest problem, the extent to which we want to retry and when we queue things to retry. And then making sure we handle signals properly so that you can kill it and it cleans up after itself instead of having to manually hit Control-C to stop it because there's like 30 threads going. So those are the main things there. Yeah, and then lots of other stuff that needs doing. It's all in that list. That's been in my list forever.
Okay. So other discussion items, I wanted to make sure to have a slot for especially Dan, but also just while we're all here together in this format, to think about anything that we might want to bring from the development side to face-to-face. And it looks like Dan has entered some things there.
Yeah, sure. Also, maybe a general comment on that first point. I think last week Kevin sprung on me the question of should Edgy declare themselves like mission accomplished, we're done, and we'll disband and go off our separate ways, or should Edgy grow? And my more considered response to that is, sure, let's grow. Let's ask for all of the money. But I also think that like the scale that we're at now seems survivable. So I would like to not have it be either we become giant or we quit. But all four. It sounds like part of what Jason, you were talking with me about earlier is it's probably, if we want to contract people, it's probably better to get more of their time. And if we can get enough money that we can have a 40 hours a week person instead of a couple 15 or 20 hours a week people, that might be a real inflection point in terms of people's ability to both drill down and focus on something and keep up with what the organization is doing. So that's made me think that maybe the spot that we're in right now is less than a sweet spot, and that we could do something obvious with additional money. Okay. The other thing is, right, this other thought that has been in the back of my mind of, we have a bunch of academics. Academic institutions usually have a lot of computers that are expensive, sitting around and not doing as much as they should. Why don't we use some of those computers instead of paying Amazon or Google? Right now, I think we're in the ideal situation for us. We have something that works. Let's not change it. But if Amazon starts charging us money and it's a choice between paying a person and paying Amazon, I think we should look hard at deploying on institutional infrastructure. This is something I have to figure out at work also, because we can't get our data out to a cloud provider. So I'm in a position of trying to figure out how to run Kubernetes on local, badly maintained infrastructure with Debian 7 on it. So it's likely that in 6 months, I'll probably know a lot of difficult things about this and might be able to be useful in leveraging any random computers we can scavenge. We could even go back to Penn. Gretchen, I don't really know where that relationship got left off, but this kind of thing, it may be doable. That's my thought.
I mean, the upshot is part of the reason we went down the containerization and Kubernetes route was to make that easier, I think. So that's good. I think the other important problem that we'd have to solve there is data storage. I mean, we could continue relying on S3, but the cost will increase dramatically because we'll be going in and out of the data center. Whereas it's free when the traffic is inside the data center, and we do a lot of S3 traffic now that we have all the analysis stuff going.
Right.
Plus, having it in S3 is nice because it's reasonably accessible to other people who might want to work with the data.
Yeah, I think I can't really imagine landing on a solution that involves not relying on the cloud for storage. That just seems like it has a lot of good reasons to do it. And so I think we'll evaluate, and maybe this is something that Jason's going to focus on very soon, is pricing this out. And so we should make sure to incorporate data transfer rates in that thought.
Yeah.
Good point. It's also, isn't it true that upload is free, or maybe that's just true for DOE? Okay.
So with S3, there's a per request charge, and the charge is different depending on the type of request. So like a get versus a head versus a post are all different fees. And then there's a data ingress and egress fee. There's no ingress fee for most stuff on AWS, including S3, but there's an egress fee.
Yeah, okay.
So every time we push something in, we pay the S3 post fee, but we don't pay a data like bandwidth fee.
Right.
But when we pull something out, we pay both the S3 get fee and the bandwidth fee.
Maybe one solution that involves using local storage that's worth including in this list of things we want to price out is, what if we used Glacier or reduced redundancy S3 as a long-term backup, but relied on institutional infrastructure for putting data next to analysis pipeline compute?
Yeah, I think that would just be dependent on like looking at our usage pattern and see how much that would save us, because you'd still be basically pushing all that stuff in. Ultimately.
Another good model for this might be to put a local read-through cache in front of S3, basically, so that we have everything that we've stored locally, but it's the canonical storage is S3, and we could blow it all away tomorrow and just pull it all back down from S3. But it is local, so most of our access for reading and doing analysis is cheap. And the costs for saving would be the same as they are, except our time would increase because there'd be more latency in the requests. But we wouldn't pay any bandwidth because it's ingress, and we would pay the same S3 post fee that we currently do.
Right.
Yeah, and similarly, if we were to land on OpenStack, on somebody's OpenStack, if that was an OpenStack that was deployed with the Swift storage API, that's a drop-in replacement for S3. So that could be a real option. But OpenStack is one of those things that it's a toolkit for somebody to set up basically their platform. So it really depends on just what a partner organization was doing already, because we'd really only want to do that if that was something they already had expertise in running for other
I think
purposes.
that's probably right. Yeah. If we literally had like machines sitting around, we might be able to build the whole thing up.
So that's something I can put out some question marks to my Wikimedia people and see what their OpenStack is.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely what they're running for all the Wikimedia VPS stuff.
Cool.
There are lots of independent projects running on that infrastructure.
Okay.
Another aspect of this is maybe we shouldn't worry about thinking so hard about how to run our infrastructure in other places, but we should instead focus on all the tasks we have around how do we bundle up the data so that it's easier and cheaper to query and do analysis on, and use those sort of compute resources for people doing analysis, because at the end of the day, like running all this infrastructure is still way cheaper than the costs of Versionista.
Mhm.
And even if we get something like Walk running, even that added to the cost of what we're running is still way cheaper than Versionista. Like I think we are over invested in what we actually need, and we're still only virtually paying something like $700 a month, versus just half of our Versionista bill is basically double that. So we're at like a quarter of what Versionista cost us,
Right.
in terms of our AWS fees.
And we've put basically no effort into optimization.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm hearing is basically there's not a whole lot more to discuss until we have our numbers, but it's promising.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and that kind of circles around to my thought about like, okay, so if, and this is probably a Stephanie question, but like, what's Edgy's flexibility in redoing its spend? On, for instance, if I feel like I can't really get traction and be contributing a ton, whenever my contract comes around, could that money better be just said, let's just set that aside and now we have some money that could go for hosting later. My main concern is I just don't want us to be hit September and like have no money, but have bills start coming in. So.
I mean, I think that's an important thing to talk about. I guess I've done a poor job of that because I've just been allowing myself to willfully run on a known bad assumption, which is I just repeat all the darn time that, hey, we have to account for all these things that we're virtually spending but not getting charged for because we're going to get charged for them soon, and just assuming that means that other people are paying attention to me saying that, and repeatedly getting the signal that we do have to account for being able to spend at least that. But we've never had a straight conversation about that fact. So that's a good point.
Yeah, so I think what I'm saying is I'll take on that action item to sort of start that conversation on the money side, to see what our options are, what the landscape looks like.
Okay. As for what you were sort of saying earlier, Dan, about concerns about the in-person meeting, I think I agree. Like the current process and way and level of working is not super sustainable, and going away or doing more are probably both workable, but like the current approach is not super sustainable. I think there are a variety of issues we are all encountering with that across Edgy, but also especially here. So just thumbs up, +1 on that, I guess.
Sounds good.
And I guess the third item I put down here, if nobody else has anything else, is open question for me as to whether we should continue having this meeting or continue having it every week. Because I feel like, I mean, it's nice to hold a space for things, but I think it's frequent that lots of people aren't able to make it. There's not that many of us. At one point, this was a larger meeting. And when it's mostly check-in on what we're doing, we could probably do that in a shorter, which also would be good in forcing us to be shorter space, somewhere in or at the end of the analyst meeting, and just throw those together. Or we could just do this meeting less often, right? Like every other week or something, like Archivers does.
I like that idea. We could also probably do a little bit of fat trimming, you know, if we did like all edgy, where basically we all just do a read through of everybody's notes first. That way we're not sort of just reading aloud our updates. You know, we could probably trim 15 minutes off of it for a weekly just by doing that. You know, if we just all read and then talk about if we have any questions or discussion points.
I'm in huge favor of that. I do find that we're reading each other's notes to one another, and I'd rather say, does anyone have any questions about Dan's updates? Does anyone have questions about Rob's, etc.?
Yeah, as mine have gotten more giant because I have been able to do less time lately, I've tried to restrict it to just calling out things that aren't well encapsulated in the text. But if we go straight up, like everybody's just expected to read and ask questions about things, that's probably even tighter.
Yeah. I'm open to the biweekly. The analyst is always hit or miss for me. I want to do more with that, but that's like right in bedtime extravaganza here now. So it's, of the three proposals, that's probably going to be the hardest for me, but also makes a lot of sense in terms of not breaking up people's day twice. Because I know even if we said this is just a 5-minute meeting, that's still a context switch for everyone. I don't want to be mindful of that. So I'm just saying I'm open to all of the above, I guess.
Well, I want these meetings to be useful and productive, and part of that means making sure that the people who get something out of it are able to attend. So if that's a bad time, then that's probably not a good approach. So maybe we should try the every other week thing, and the slim it down to like just write up your status update and respond to questions rather than reading what you wrote.
Can we still try to do the minutes every week, or some way of doing this check-in?
Yeah, just like everybody posts a status update every week.
Yep.
Do you think it would be better to do in a document like this, or at that level, would it be better to like everybody post in Slack?
Slack is probably enough.
Well, the trouble with Slack, though, is that we lose our history off the back end.
There is something nice about the habit of like, I have a Todoist reminder every week to fill out the minutes on Tuesday so that people have time to look at it. And 70% of the time I do. And if that was just a weekly thing that we did, and then we did follow-ups every other week, maybe that's pretty simple. I'm going to advocate for that.
Sounds good to me.
Walk me through it. Where are we talking about doing that just in Slack, or?
Sorry, I meant we'll fill out meeting minutes as if we're going to meet, and then we'll skip the part where we meet every other week.
Yeah, I like that. We could, I mean, basically we just have the document for the dated meeting, and we do update, we add updates to it each week.
Right. And if it's not making it too complicated, we could even start applying judgment about whether we need to meet based on what's in the document. But we could start by every other week.
Yeah, let's start with a set meeting time. That way, it's because it's important, at least for me, to hold that space.
Yep.
So yeah, let's plan on skipping next week of in-person meeting, but still posting updates on the 22nd. And I'll get that doc out. I've not been super timely with getting these docs posted up. So I'll try to have that posted in advance. So when you go to add your work, it's there to be added to.
How about we just make the doc immediately following this meeting, like right now?
Yes, I will do that. That's good.
Then we can also tell ourselves to subscribe to the practice of updating it throughout the week as we go.
Yeah.
That sounds even better. Like that sounds like good habit building.
I
Radical.
tried to do that once. I didn't do a very good job, and I didn't tell anybody I was doing it, so it didn't create any new practices for anybody else. I didn't approach it well.
Okay. Well, that's good. I feel like this is productive.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up before we part ways?
I might not be able to make it to the analyst meeting tonight. I'll try to, but might not be there.
Okay.
I am planning on being there. This will be my sort of monthly check-in. So, okay. Well, I will see a hunk of you probably tomorrow at All Edgy, and then on Saturday or Friday night. So.
Yep.